In the black silence of deep space, the Varkal Dominion hunted for weakness. For centuries, their fleets had expanded without consequence, striking down species too fragile to resist. When scouts found the human colony of Erevos 9, nestled in a quiet system near the galactic fringe, the Admiralty called it an easy culling. The attack was swift, cruel, and arrogant. Orbital fire turned the colony's plains into molten glass. Civilian evacuation ships, slow and trembling, were cut apart for sport. Varkal commanders opened wideband channels to broadcast their laughter as families screamed in terror. "Earthlings breed like vermin," one captain sneered. "We will burn them out of every burrow they make." On the colony's final day, the Varkal flagship paused, lingering only long enough to record its triumph before dispatching the message home. A declaration of conquest to be delivered across light years. But the Dominion's arrogance left no room for foresight. They had not yet learned what the galaxy would. Earth's grief does not linger. It transforms into rage. The feast of mockery. In the command halls of the Dominion, officers reveled before the transmission even reached them. They did not wait for confirmation of victory. To them, humanity was weak, primitive, restrained by diplomatic morality. At banquets of flame-lit halls, they toasted to the cleansing of the vermin. Songs of mockery spread through their ranks, ballads celebrating human screams as trophies of their supremacy. The galaxy listened. Neighboring empires, nervous but curious, wondered how Earth would respond. Would they fold inward, beg for negotiation, or send ambassadors dripping with sorrow? The consensus was clear. Humanity would endure silently. They always had. That was the Dominion's fatal miscalculation. Because while the Varkal celebrated, while their commanders drowned in arrogance, Earth had already moved. And retaliation was already en route. The silence before the roar. For 3 days after the Erevos 9 massacre, the galaxy heard nothing from Earth. No embassies sent. No envoys dispatched. No pleas for justice. The quiet unnerved some, others dismissed it as paralysis. But within the Sol system, silence was no sign of weakness. It was the silence of preparation. Titan shipyards lit the void as dreadnought hulls awakened from cold storage. Mars forges screamed, their furnaces breathing out steel and tungsten by the megaton. From Luna's dark craters, rose fleets kept hidden even from allies. Armadas built for war humanity had always sworn never to wage. In orbit above Earth, the Archangel-class flagship stirred. Massive vessels, each longer than a continent's coastline, their keels forged in secrecy. On encrypted channels across the black. Mobilize full deployment. No quarter, no negotiation, no delay. Humanity did not wait for the Dominion's transmission to arrive. Humanity was already en route to intercept it. The message that never arrived. The Varkal flagship carrying the conquest recording never completed its journey. Mid-transit, its escorts picked up anomalous readings, faint signatures scattered across the dark like flickers of dying stars. By the time they realized what they were, Terran warships, running cold and silent, it was too late. The humans did not jam communications. They did not broadcast demands. They simply struck. Rail cannons tore through Varkal shielding. Hypersonic slugs, accelerated to fractions of light speed, ripped ships in half before alarms could sound. The flagship's message core, its arrogant declaration of victory, was incinerated in the first volley. The recording of their triumph would never be delivered. Retaliation had arrived before the Dominion even knew to fear it. The roar of retribution. The galaxy had seen wars before, border skirmishes, imperial conflicts, petty feuds between species that faded after decades. But what unfolded next was not war. It was retribution incarnate. Human fleets moved like storms across the void. Entire Dominion sectors, fortified for centuries, fell in hours. Human dreadnoughts cut through defenses as if they were paper. Planets burned in silence as kinetic rods fell from orbit, each one carrying the weight of mountains, each strike leaving craters visible from space. On comms, chilling broadcasts spread. "This is Earth. You will reap what you sow." Alien fleets scrambled to intercept, but nothing stemmed the tide. Where the Dominion deployed hundreds of ships, Earth deployed thousands. Where they relied on intimidation, humanity relied on precision. Archangels blotted out suns. Carrier groups unleashed drones that struck like locust swarms, stripping fleets to bone and metal. Human soldiers, clad in black exosuits, descended on worlds like storms of iron, unstoppable, merciless, methodical. No negotiations. No mercy. Only fire. The breaking of the Dominion. The Dominion's arrogance dissolved into terror. On their homeworld, the High Council argued over impossible reports. Systems lost in minutes, flagships gone silent, fleets erased without trace. "Impossible," they whispered. "The humans cannot wield such power." But power was no longer the question. What they faced was willpower sharpened into a blade. Earth did not simply retaliate, they erased. The Dominion's grand fleets, once symbols of unmatched authority, became little more than wreckage drifting across empty systems. Their fortresses shattered, their colonies reduced to blackened ruins. Every strike carried the same message. Erevos 9 has been avenged. The silence after fire. And then, as swiftly as it began, the storm ceased. Where the Dominion's empire had once stretched, now there was only silence and ash. Human fleets, engines burning like the eyes of gods, withdrew as suddenly as they had appeared. The galaxy held its breath. On the few Dominion worlds left standing, survivors whispered to one another in the dark. Retaliation came before their message home did. The word spread like fire through the stars. A parable, a warning, a scar carved into the memory of every civilization. The lesson carved in fear. In the aftermath, no envoy dared speak lightly of Earth. No empire mocked their restraint again. Because the galaxy had seen. Humanity's patience is vast. Their silence is heavy. But their vengeance, when awakened, is infinite. And so the lesson endured, whispered from one generation to the next. Never provoke Earth. Never take their grief for weakness. For retaliation will arrive before you even cry for help. The Kroth Dominion had long viewed humans as little more than upstart primates who had stumbled too far into the stars. They tolerated Earth's colonies not because they feared them, but because they found them amusing. Fragile structures of steel and glass built on distant worlds, daring to call themselves civilizations. When the Kroth fleet descended upon Earth 3, a young human colony just 12 years old, they did so with the leisure of predators toying with prey. The skies darkened under their cruisers, sleek black hulls reflecting the colony's burning towers. Civilians screamed as kinetic strikes rained down, tearing apart hab blocks and scattering families into dust. Kroth warriors marched through the streets in ceremonial formation, their boots crushing rubble, their banners waving as if this massacre were a parade. The humans fought back with rifles, militia units rushing to the defense of their homes, but they were hopelessly outmatched. For every Kroth soldier felled, 10 colonists died. In the central square, Governor Elias was dragged before the Kroth commander. The alien, a towering figure with obsidian-scaled skin, sneered as he executed the governor publicly, broadcasting the act across the colony's comnet. His voice rang with cruel certainty. Earth's children bleed and Earth will do nothing. They are civilized, restrained. Their words are honey, but their claws are blunt. This colony dies to remind them of their place. Urith 3 burned. Thousands perished. The Kroth laughed as their fleet prepared to depart, sending a message home declaring their victory and boasting that humanity was no threat to galactic order. What they did not know, what they could not imagine, was that their message would never arrive before Earth had already answered. The mockery of the Dominion. In the Great Council chamber aboard the flagship Vorath's Fang, the Kroth celebrated. Their commanders drank spiced bloodwine, replaying the footage of Governor Elias' execution with savage amusement. "Look at them scatter," one officer laughed. "Children clutching stones, thinking them weapons. These humans build walls of paper and call them fortresses." Another added, "The Dominion should thank us. We have saved them from wasting time negotiating with these vermin. Earth will send envoys, will plead, will beg, and we shall remind them that mercy is reserved for the strong." The chamber roared with laughter. They spoke as if the destruction of Urith 3 were an afterthought, a jest to be repeated in future tales of conquest. Their arrogance was absolute, their certainty unshakable. They believed humanity was slow, bureaucratic, trapped in councils and debates. They believed retaliation, if any, would come in months or years, if it came at all. They were wrong. The silence before the storm. Far across the void, Earth received the distress signals. The transmissions ended abruptly as the colony was overwhelmed, but what remained was enough. Burning homes, desperate